Hello RC builders of the internet. Today is our third ever RC printer anniversary, and every year we like to take a little look back at the builds we've done in the previous 12 months and let you know what we liked and what we didn't like. Now unfortunately this year is a little different. I didn't get quite as many builds done this year as we did in previous years. We did get 7 new builds done however, and then I did embark on a super cool 3D printed project that I'm going to share with you today. It's a little different than remote control stuff, but I think you'll find it exciting nonetheless. So first I'll quickly walk you through all of these builds here, and then we'll jump into something completely different, and maybe you can let me know in the comments if that's something you'd like to learn more about. So the most recent 3D printable RC build we did is this one right here, which is the brand new 3D Set Sakura. This is a rear-wheel drive model that's modeled after the Datsun 240Z. This car is so newly finished that I haven't even actually finished off my build video for it, so watch for that. It's going to be coming in the next couple of weeks. Personally, I do love Z cars. I used to have a 350Z in my younger years. So this is a really fun special build for me, and it also doesn't hurt that this is the fastest car that they've built to date, so it's a ton of fun to drive as well. Next we have this guy right here, which is the newest version of the Open RC Tractor by Macit Pro. This is a super fun RC model to play with, especially if you have kids and if you are interested in building all the implements that can go on behind it. They have different trailers, a spreader, cultivator, plows, and a whole lot more. So definitely check this guy out. It's a great update over the previous Open RC tractors. It has motors built right into the rear axles here, one on each side, providing a lot more robustness to the drivetrain. They've also upgraded the servo in the front to be a standard 20 kilogram servo, which is providing more robustness to the steering. And it still has 2 micro servos in the back for using these rear lifter arms here to lift your implements. Alright, so this guy is the Badger. This is a front wheel drive RC buggy developed by the same guy, designer Tehustavet, that also designed the MK Ultra and the Veltro touring car we built last year as well. This particular model here was built with just a cheap brush combo kit up in the front, so motor ESC together is less than 30 bucks. And it does perform quite well because all the weight is right up here in front of the front axle, putting a lot of pressure down on those front wheels. It's quite a different driving experience. It really wants to dive into those turns, and so while a lot of the components are the same as the ones in the MK Ultra, it's definitely a completely different driving experience. Alright, next we have this guy. This is the Skippy boat by 3D Sets. This is the first boats that the guys at 3D Sets have ever designed. One of the cool features of this boat is that it's actually a jet drive, and so this outboard motor at the back here actually sucks water in the bottom, and there's an impeller in here, and then it shoots it out this port here. Now because of this design, you can actually put multiple of these outboard motors on the back here. So if you wanted, you could actually add twice as much power by just putting another one of these outboards on. And that would be great because it's a little bit heavy and it's a little bit of a pig in the water, so having that extra power is probably something that would help the performance a little bit. Now also, I haven't painted it or done any sort of a waterproof coating on it. I might at some point add a coat of epoxy on the outside here, but to be honest, I haven't noticed any water leaking problems, and that's probably because as I'm driving it in the water, more water's coming up over the sides and getting into the boat that way than anything else. So I'm not really sure waterproofing would actually be useful in the end. Alright, here's another fun little build that we did this year, which is the 3D Sets Rescuer. Now I printed this one, but I actually had my son build it. He built it one day when he was home from school sick, and he got most of the way through it. Just some of the finishing details and the electrical wiring in the end I had to help him out with, but other than that, it was a pretty fun build for a kid to do. Now this is also one of the more inexpensive builds that you can do. It just uses little inexpensive drive motors in the front and the rear to give it 4-wheel drive. It's got steering in the front, but you can also add another servo in the back if you want to add rear steering as well. The tires here are 3D printed, and it has 3D printed shocks as well, so that all together makes it one of the more inexpensive builds. Now it's not going to break any speed records or have amazing performance, but for a young kid that just wants to crawl around, it's a super fun toy. Alright, so this is the Ski Ride 2, which is the newest snowmobile by designer Build It Better. It's a huge improvement over the previous model, and you can get it in this style here, which is modeled after a Ski-Doo, or you can get it in a style known as the Polar, which is modeled after a Polaris sled. Now this is a complete new redesign with many features, but some of my favorite ones. These new front spindles here have actual ball joints in them, which is great, helping for the mobility in the front. It's got a much bigger motor on the inside, helping to turn the track for this heavy vehicle. The track and the rear wheels have been completely redesigned and are much more robust. It also comes stock with a belt drive, so that's not an upgrade that you're going to have to make. And there's also an optional voltmeter display on the top here, which is a super fun feature to have too. Overall, I really think the aesthetic is a huge improvement over the previous version, and it's great to see how far the designer has come in just 2 short years. Alright, next is the Max Team Van by 3D Sets. You can also get this in a 4x4 version as well, but this one's obviously modeled after the A-Team Van, which is amazing. All the doors open on this guy, including this side one here. And you can actually fit a full case of beer on the inside. Although if you did that, I'm not sure how long your shocks are going to last. It's also super fun to play with, and what can I say? I love it when a plan comes together. Alright, so those are all the new RC vehicles we built in the last 12 months. Let's go ahead and show you the new project that I've been working on. And that's these right here, which are 3D printed surfboards. So this is the first one that I ever made. You can see it is printed out. It was printed out in about 25 different pieces and then glued together with some CA glue. I just printed this one out on my Prusa Mark III. And then once printed out, I covered it in a layer of fiberglass and epoxy and took it out there. Now we don't have much in the way of ocean waves out here, so the best way we can catch a wave is behind a boat. So these are all wake surfboards, so they're a little shorter than your standard surfboard. I did 3D print some fins and epoxy them on as well. To my surprise, this first one actually worked out. I just designed it in Fusion 360 off of another board I found online, and it seemed to work out pretty well. Unfortunate thing about this one is that while it's very buoyant and holds pretty much anyone up, it's hard to carve with and is a bit of a pig in the water. So the next one I designed was this one right here, and this is more of a skim style wake surfboard. It's modeled after the Phase 5 Matrix, and I just finished it off, and then we actually had a terrible end to the summer here, and I haven't been able to get in the water and try it out yet. But I'm really excited to get this guy out on the water in the spring here. Again, you can see we have a 3D printed fin. I smartened up a little bit this time and added some screws in there so you can add or remove the fins. Again, this one was just designed in Fusion 360. One of the major construction differences between this one and the first one was that this one has 2 exterior walls, whereas that first one only has 1 exterior wall. So this one's a little bit heavier, but it's also a little bit thinner. That first one was 1 inch and this is 5/8. So how's this one going to do? I'm not too sure yet, but I'm excited to give it a try. So after this one, we went and built another one. So the next one I built was this one right here, and this one's very light. It uses 1 exterior wall and only 5% infill. You can see the infill in there. The top here was printed in a clear filament, but you can see through the orange there as well a little bit to see the layer lines. So very, very low infill. Now this one was printed in 3 big pieces. You can see there's a join here and then there's another join right there. This one was printed on a Tron XY VHO 600 that I purchased. And I purchased it because it has a 2-foot cubed bed, and I figured I'd be able to print an entire surfboard all at once. So far I haven't been super impressed with the Tron VHO 600, but it does work, it is functional, and I am able to get these prints off, which is pretty cool. This one has holes in it for standard FCS fins, and it will hold them in with these little set screw holes there. I do have a very similar board to this. This one's modeled after a Liquid Force Primo, and so I was just going to use the fins off the Primo on this board when I get a chance to get it out there, but again, we haven't had it out there because it's snowing out right now. So after doing this one, I realized I had a bit of an issue on my hand, and that's that if you end up heating up this PLA, even though it is covered by fiberglass, you do get some warping in between the infill lines, and I'll see if I can show you what I mean. There, I'm not sure how well you can see that, but if you do heat the surface, it starts to bubble, and that's just because the single exterior wall is too easy to heat up and warp. I've found that if you use a double exterior wall, then this won't happen nearly as easily, but for the single exterior walls, this is what happens. So I was trying to come up with a new design for something like this that would be able to use 2 exterior walls, but also be a little bit lighter, and that's where I ended on this next design. And that's this one right here. This is what I call my lattice board. It's modeled similarly to the 3D printed surfboard company known as Wyve. That's W-Y-V-E, kind of like wave. And I did have a little bit of trouble with the fiberglassing on this one, just with the fiberglass dripping and kind of drooping in between the different crevices, but I think I've got a way of fixing that for the next one. I did try 3D printing separate fin boxes for this one, and it turned out alright, but I don't think that's required, and on my final board I'll probably just 3D print those right back in there instead of adding them in afterwards like this one. Now this one is a bit heavier than that other one, just the amount of epoxy I ended up using in the fiberglassing, so I think I can get that weight down quite a bit, and I'm excited to give another one of these a try again. Another thing I've been testing out too is printing these out of lightweight PLA. It's actually working not too bad, again with a layer of fiberglass over top of it. As long as I use like a 15% infill, I can stand on it and I can bounce on it like this and it won't crush or anything. So that might be another way to go as well. Lightweight PLA foams up as you print it, and you end up using only about 50% of the filament, so 50% of the weight goes into that board. So that's something I'm excited to try again this year. Alright everyone, that's enough for today. Thanks again for another amazing year. I hope you enjoy following along as much as I enjoy building these things. If you have any ideas of cool things I should build, make sure you post them in the comments below. And as always, if you're looking for any cool ideas for RC projects to 3D print, kits, parts, or instructions, make sure you check us out at rcprinter.com. See you again soon.